Erin Bell, and I am a environmental epidemiologist at the University at Albany School of Public Health, and I have been very pleased to work with Ed Lawson and members of the City Council and other members in the Newburgh community on issues around PFAS for about 2 years now. And we one of many things we're doing is to launch a study on the health effects related to PFAS. And in those discussions, realize that really this is just one of a much bigger picture related to health, wellness, and environmental justice in Newburgh. So with that, I'm going to actually pass it to Gloria.
Hi, I'm Gloria Diaz. I'm the recruitment coordinator on the study. I'm really happy to be here and help fulfill the vision of the study and of y'all, of what you would like to see in your town. And I wish I could start every morning stretching and having a really nice conversation with you guys. It was really inspiring and started off my day like really well. Sarah.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Wyman. I run the faculty center at SUNY New Paltz, and I'm in the sustainability learning community, and I'm a member of the English department, and I'm helping with channeling some of the energy of SUNY New Paltz into health, wellness, and environmental justice in Newburgh. We have a lot of students, employees, faculty, staff who live in Newburgh, and there's a lot of interest in this healing process. Oh, I'll pass it to Jonathan.
John, okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jonathan Rust. I'm a psychology professor at SUNY New Paltz. And Sarah, we had a meeting with having to do with equity and diversity with this faculty learning center. And she had thought that I may be interested in learning more about the Newburgh Clean Water Project. And so I'm here to listen. I have my daughter with me, so I may have to, she's 10 years old, I may have to leave early, but I just wanted to be present.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad you could join us tonight, and we welcome all children.
Right.
We have lots of them amongst all of us, so that's great.
Okay, I will go now. So my name is Shafiul Chaudhary. I am the hydrogeologist in the geology department. I study water, and I could not join, the 8 a.m. meeting because I have commitments in Wednesday mornings. My reason for, finding out about this more is I teach a class in fall, which is called Water Resource Management. And I usually involve my students to do projects, how we can solve, water related issues for communities, and especially, communities where underrepresented groups are involved. I'd like to know more from this group. And when I will teach my class in fall, I will have a better idea how to engage my students into this.
Glad you're here tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Elisa.
Hi, my name is Elisa Grimm. I'm a research support specialist at the University of Albany, and I'm really looking forward to working with all of you. Finally, nice to at least see some of you on Zoom and someday meet in person.
It looks like Jennifer was able to get on. So Jennifer, if you can hear us, we're just doing introductions.
Hi, Jennifer Rollison. I'm with Newburgh Clean Water Project and also working a little bit with Riverkeeper. And so I actually live in Ward 1, and I'm eager to and supportive of this initiative. So that's all I can say about that.
And I'm going to have Mr. Lawson go last. Andrea, I see you can introduce yourself.
I'm a professor at SUNY New Paltz in art, and I've been just part of kind of bringing things together a little bit as part of the EDDI initiative, which is a initiative at SUNY New Paltz that is just transition based. And I'm going to be in and out and probably turn off my screen at some point, but I'm trying to listen in. Yeah, I have family things going on. Thank you.
So thank you. And Anne, I think.
Hi, I'm Ann Galprin. I teach in the design program at SUNY New Paltz. I'm very interested in social justice and public health, and I teach a class called Design Research, where with the students, we do work on the UN Sustainability Development Goals, and interested in learning more about this project because it's about something that's really critical for health and sustenance. So I'm here to listen today. I learned about the project from Andrea Frank and from Sarah and from Josh Korenblatt. So I'm very interested in finding out more, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Excellent, thank you. So Ed, I thought when introduce yourself, but maybe then speak a little longer and talk about the work you're doing with New Paltz and your goals and health, wellness, and social justice. And then I think we can chat a bit about kind of next steps and plans and things like that. But if you don't mind, introduce yourself and then help us orient ourselves.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm very humbled and honored to be amongst committed people such as yourself, to approach this work with such vim and vigor. It's just humbling, and so I'm excited to do that. My name is Ed Lawson. I have, I guess, too many jobs to sort of mention, but I'll just say in this space, I serve as a co-chair of the Stewart National Guard Restoration Advisory Board. I'm a member of the community advisory panel for the multi-site study, the PFAS multi-site study that's being led by Dr. Bell in Albany and the Department of Health. And I also run an organization, a consulting firm called Family and Community Engagement Services, Inc., that focuses on family strengthening and building communities. And we've been doing a lot of that work in and around Newburgh and across the country. Specifically with respect to this project around PFAS, we didn't just want to come and talk about PFAS and lift PFAS up as an issue, because typically when that happens, when we highlight a specific issue around any kind of environmental or social justice measure, that becomes the foci. And when that issue is either addressed or dealt with, or the white paper is written, sort of the funding and the drive and the energy goes away. So what we've done is we've lifted up health, wellness, environmental, and social justice as our seminal goal, as the goal that we're striving for, and PFAS being one of the things that allows us to pursue it specifically. And so we've decidedly taken a posture that says the community should lead this work, and that they should be the ones that identify how best to pursue and advocate for themselves. One of the things that drove sort of that decision making is that in 2017 and 2018, when there was biometric monitoring testing done in the city of Newburgh, over 3,300 people were tested, maybe even 3,400 people were tested, and 75% of those people were white. And one of the things that we deduced from that was that one of the challenges in that result was that when information was shared and information was discussed about this PFAS environmental catastrophe, it was done in which we consider white spaces. And so what we're trying and attempting to do now is to have conversations ward by ward in spaces where the majority of the population resides, the Black and brown people reside. And so we want to be really intentional and purposeful and visit those places that weren't visited when those testings were done. For those of us that are in Newburgh, we know what that means. That means going to the housing projects and going to institutions of faith and community-based agencies north of Broadway, and to businesses that welcome this kind of dialogue. And so that's the posture that we're in now. We've met, when I say we, I mean Dr. Bell, and I had the pleasure of also addressing the city council to talk about our process and how the plan is to roll out the multi-site study. Graciously, ward leaders from across the city of Newburgh have been extending their time and willingness to be involved in this. And so we thank Councilman Martinez for her long day and then taking on a longer day to be involved in this conversation. And we also thank all of our colleagues from SUNY New Paltz. We want to align as co-conspirators with Newburgh and with the community to support however we can in our places of strength to support the community as it dictates. And so that's our posture. We had a really wonderful meeting this morning to speak to what that looks like. And tonight we were hoping, Dr. Bell, that, and Gloria stayed on until the end this morning, that we could focus on some of the things that we heard in our conversation around how to effectively engage this community, some of the challenges that we heard about in engaging this community, and be really intentional and purposeful about an effort that we want to engage in on March 5th. We want to come to the community and support Dr. Bell in the rollout of in Ward 1 of this multi-site study, but we want to do it in concert with the community. And so we want to pay homage and give space for people that have been doing this work, like the Newburgh Clean Water Project, Riverkeeper, and others, to help us to sort of roll this out. So with that, Dr. Bell, I will turn it back to you and Gloria to sort of take us through our paces around what we want to do and how we want to sort of move forward.
And with that, thank you very much for that introduction, Mr. Lawson. And with that, I actually would like to have a moment for Councilperson Martinez to introduce herself and give us perspectives on if you have heard anything or have any thoughts tonight as we begin planning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bell. My name is Giselle Martinez. I am the council member for Ward 1 here in the city of Newburgh. And I'm very excited to be joining everyone on this call tonight. And I want to thank first the efforts of, thank you to Dr. Bell, thank you to Gloria, and then Mr. Lawson, who I think left the call. They've been working very, very diligently and have been just very easy to work with. So thank you for that. I participated in the study myself, and it was very easy, very quick and fast. And I really just want to get the word out in my ward specifically. I know that they had already presented to us at the city council meeting, but it's just to reiterate the importance of not just educating our community on what's going on, but also informing them of, the importance of this health study. And that's kind of why I'm here. I want to see where I can be best, what I can do to help. And there is a lot of skepticism in my community, just in general, when it comes to medicine, to science, to health studies. And so it's really about figuring out what combination of tactics we can use to get the most participation. But thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So a number of things that I mentioned that there are plans to have some joint events on March 5th, and the thought is to have to basically travel to different locations in Ward 1 and with the community in mind, with this overall theme of health, wellness, and environmental justice. And I think part of that planning will be to decide where that should be. One area where I would where I think we also would like to explore with you specifically is I think it's really important we have some events that are in Spanish, or where we have the capacity to have our staff and partners with us who can help provide that information, and making sure we have outreach and are respectful of concerns with the Latinx and Spanish-speaking populations. And so that's another area that I think we also need to discuss, that I feel we haven't quite gotten to where we need to be in terms of our engagement with that. So I was curious, I think maybe if we could, and if it's okay with you, maybe we start with March 5th, since that's very quickly coming down the pike, and some thoughts on, and for the folks from New Pulse too, if you could, because you've really kind of thought about this March 5th event. Did you have places in mind or a thought on how the day might go, or do we need to, where should we start with regards to March 5th?
So I'll jump in. I think today's call was really interesting because we heard from community members that it will be a challenge to go to places that we haven't been before, and to get folk to come out because the trust and legitimacy hasn't been built. I think Councilman Martinez just spoke a little bit to that. And so the thought was that there would be some identification and connection with folks who are credible messengers and real models, and begin that way to when we went to different places. There was a definite, I think Gabrielle Hill mentioned it, movement to go to barbershops and other businesses like Black Vanilla to also have this conversation in a space where people feel safe and receive information in a certain way. And then there was also conversations around the school district, the school buildings in Ward 1. There was also talk about, artwork and other types of science-related involvement of both students in the school district and students from New Pulse and maybe professors from New Pulse, et cetera. So, and obviously the Varick homes, the Fogarty homes, to have conversations there. The NAACP was on the line. Kyle Conway had some difficulty, but his thought was that a lot of the members of the NAACP actually live in some of the spaces that we might be going to, and to use them as ambassadors around health, wellness, environmental justice. The last thing I'll say is this, is that we talked about, those were the spaces and places, but we also talked about the need to be consistent. It's not just about the PFAS study. This is about health, wellness, and environmental and social justice. So once we start working out some sort of systemic or consistent conversation with that community or that space on a regular basis, to go there to continue to inform that community about issues of importance around health, wellness, environmental, and social justice. So that's where we were today. And Gloria, if I missed anything, you can just fill in. But that's what we were, and it would the day would conclude at Black Vanilla for all of us to convene, to talk and discuss about what we can do and how we can do it.
So is the idea, I mean, I'm also cognizant of the fact that I don't want to be like an army showing up and too many people, because that's overwhelming. In terms of, have you thought about, should people break up into teams and go out, or do you have any thoughts along those lines?
Yeah, we did actually think about that, and that was something that we talked about, that so because actually Andrea brought that up, asking a question that we don't want to come off as like everyone else that came into the community as saviors and that we have all the answers. The community has the answers, and we want to be supportive and co-conspirators there. So yes, the conversation around deploying different people in different places for different purposes with the same message around health, wellness, and environmental justice. So at each space, There was also some talks, Erin, this is important, about infographics and information even prior to us arriving. And so sharing of the information, the sharing of resources. At some point we were talking about, someone mentioned that there's some scholarships for students to study this kind of thing and opportunities to get certificates and things of that sort. I mentioned Chuck Thomas I think it was 2 years ago, or maybe it was last year, had 4 African-American students from the high school plant trees in the city of Newburgh. That he wants to do that again. So all of these opportunities to identify not just credible messengers and real models, but also the resources and information and opportunities to share with community. I think it was a glaring message that we heard this morning as well.
So sounds like, are you thinking that March 5th should be a day where we meet with ambassadors and answer questions? And
so we want to, I think we can use this call to figure some things out. First of all, where we're going. And second of all, what's the best strategy to be most effective in those spaces? So I think it's pretty clear that Varick, Fogarty, they've opened up those spaces for us to be there and present and share information. Tactically, I think we need to be talking about, well, what's the most effective way for us to get the message out to the most people and use that time to the best of our ability? I think that's where we are. So I think it's places first, and then sort of tactics and strategy moving forward. And so I think there are folks on the ground that are ready to talk about, okay, well, who in the Varick homes can be an ambassador? For example, I'm thinking about Tammy Hollins. I know folks on the line may know Tammy. I think she actually works for the city. My Tammy lives in the Varick homes, and she might be a great ambassador to sort of let people know that we're coming, or even quick queries Tammy to understand how we actually deploy in Varick homes and what we do and how we do it to get the best possible turnout and have the best possible impact.
Right.
Gabrielle said barbershops, and she's been doing work in barbershops, and that might be another space where people can be deployed to have conversations. Black Vanilla clearly, obviously, is a space. And any other spaces that we think in Ward 1 that might be effective. Our very own Dr. Gwen, she's here at Newpulse in the psychology department. She's on the board of the Newburgh Boys and Girls Club. And she talked about that being a location where we might do something on that Saturday. There's a school, Horizon on the Hudson, that's right in the heart of Ward 1 as well. So there's spaces. And now I guess the question is how do we deploy and what do we do?
Well, and how many would, one question I have, because again, we're thinking that we would have consistent events moving forward. And so how many on a Saturday would make sense? And then how, I was curious for people in the community, how often should we think about being there and a strategy for if we obviously won't get to everybody on the 5th. So, how soon should we be back to coordinate and weekly, are Saturdays good? Should we alternate the days? Those types of things. And I was curious if Giselle had some thoughts on that or did that come up this morning? Because I had to leave early.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from other folks in Newburgh to hear what they think about.
Jennifer, or anyone, folks who live in Ward 1.
I think you would have to consider to stagger the times just because, people's working schedules are different, childcare needs. So I don't think it should be consistently one specific day or time. Mm-hmm. Also, depending on the location that you choose, although it may be in Ward 1, it may be drawing people from outside of the area. A perfect example is Calgary Church is on the corner, but you have people, that are local, but then others that are coming from far away because they have ties to it. Residential community areas are great just because it's people living there and it's their space. So it's already known as a safe zone where they feel comfortable and would know each other. But I do think working schedules and childcare should be something to consider.
Mhm.
So even if there's a way to partner with volunteers or something to have an activity, an additional space to just do coloring sheets and board games while parents are able to engage more might be helpful.
Jennifer, do you think Saturday is a good day to do this type of
Saturdays,
work?
it depends because, those are also the days for families to fill in either their household needs or that's when they're running around lugging kids to their programs. And don't assume Saturdays aren't a working day. So it's tricky. I think going forward, we should always just kind of acknowledge we're not going to get everyone. It's just trying to, be as efficient with the time that we have and effective. So, if you're doing a Saturday morning, also consider a Sunday after, I don't know, you've got churchgoers and stuff too, but and that's another thing. If you're coordinating like with a church or something, it may be where you piggyback off an activity that already has the traffic coming in. So you're not asking more people to travel, like the Armory, at 1 o'clock, 12:30 people, that's a time. The schools, maybe if there's a location nearby or the school itself after pickup or after a PTO meeting, or maybe it's part of the PTO meeting. I know the PTO guys over at Horizons. So I think if we could piggyback off of activities and groups that are already meeting, that would be helpful.
I agree. That's a great strategy. I think that's where the barbershop thing came in. Men are gathering there, or even hair salons, people are gathering there to have the conversation once we're invited in, obviously. So, and I like the notion of staggered times. And again, that can be driven from either ambassadors at spaces or from the community. They can tell us what makes sense. And I also think Jennifer's point is well taken. We just have, we're going to do what we can, the best we can to create the space, but people have lives and they're going to live those lives.
And I would think also, these sessions are great, but for some people, they like to nibble, so to speak. So if we even just have the idea that conversations are echoing or there's something that piggybacks off of a conversation that took place or some information that they were given previously, that might help ease them in. Some people aren't wanting to sit down for a 45-minute conversation, but if there's marketing or whatever, which I know is happening, if they see a flyer and then there's someone discussing it and then they see a Zoom meeting they can pop into, for some, that's more comfortable.
Folks have a thought on what would be a good start? Who would be a good starting point in the community, or what?
I think Councilman Martinez has a hand up.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Oh, there it is. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to piggyback off of what was mentioned earlier by Jennifer. The whole nibbling part, I think, is like a really good something that we should be focusing on too. I was going to suggest, I don't know if we have that, but what type of material will be handed out when if we split up into groups, if we're going to be on the community? Because I definitely find that like one-pagers are super helpful whenever you walk around in the neighborhood. If people are in a rush, but you're able to catch them even for like a split second, you give them that paper. And I find that brochures aren't as helpful sometimes just because it's like long to people. So 1 page, half a sheet, just basic info. You want to participate, here's this, and this. And I find that that's a lot more effective. But I don't I don't know what everybody else might think about that.
We definitely have a one pager that's a fact sheet that we can definitely shrink down. We can send it to everybody and get your thoughts on what would be the most important information on it. We also have the invitation that's being sent that is also translated, and we can send everything and people can just see what folks might want to find more informative. We're also in the process of making pins that just say, ask me about PFAS. Or represent Newburgh, represent Hoosick, because Hoosick Falls is there, the community. So we have those types of things. And then we can design, and again, it was nice to hear from New Pulse. We have some contacts now with folks with design backgrounds, but we can design other things as well that folks might want to have information on. Like we were talking today, lead, information related to lead and other types of resources that we can help with.
Yeah, and really quick, I don't know if this is something that you'd also be interested in or if there's funding for that, but I don't know how people feel about robocalls. Maybe people might answer and hang up, but if it's like, participate in a health study, I've seen the ads on online. I've seen it on Instagram, on Facebook. Those are really great. But I don't know how effective you think calling people, or maybe having people phone bank, having a live person phone bank, having volunteers do that.
Can I share something?
Yes, and then Jennifer has her hand up too, but you go ahead.
Councilman Martinez reminded me. So one of the things that was suggested in our call this morning was creating sort of a PSA or some sort of visual of this study and this health. So not just moving beyond the flyers or the one pagers to infographics and even to videos that can be exchanged on social media. It was a thought that would also, with this nibbling theme, would also be impactful and effective.
So we're actually in the process of creating a package that we can give to people with some short videos. I was going to try my hand at a short one to folks come out on them. We were really hoping people in the community, especially if they participate, like Ed and others on the CAP and Congressman Martinez and others and Jennifer, whoever might be willing, if they wanted to do a short video, they could do that and we could provide the structure. So we're compiling some ideas to share with everyone. And some folks we know have social media contacts that they could, in theory, use the same information on. So that's great. That's really, really helpful information. Jennifer, you had your hand up too.
Yeah, I wanted to put out there, I was wondering because, working with Riverkeeper and Clearwater, Newburgh Clean Water, this is one side of the process of, environmental science law and all that other stuff. And the goals that you're trying to, we've discussed privately, like what that's about, what this is all, the end result, what we're looking for. But in the meantime, that's a long time coming. Is there a possibility for us to, like with Riverkeeper or myself, like create an other side of this, which is things you can do, how you can advocate for yourself? There's a lot of paths for residents to take other than because you might also have people who still might not want to participate in the blood draw, but may want to still be active and somehow advocating for this issue. So it would be great to have that, because we've had a lot of, guinea pig experiences where we don't know what happens with the end result. And it would be great to kind of own some of our future, I guess you could say.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly kind of what we've been talking about, that this isn't just the study and that this is beyond those who choose to participate, and that people have opportunity. I think if you and others are there to help provide that guidance and experience in your view and in your thoughts on that would be great. And if, again, handing out same kind of thing, I think handing out information that people can follow up on.
Okay. Yeah, any opportunity for us to help with that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
And I just wanted to add to that, something that there's a lot of great things said in the meeting this morning, but something that really stuck with me is as someone was saying that they were unaware of the PFAS contamination in Newburgh, and they were embarrassed that they were unaware of how bad it was, and that really broke my heart because no one should feel embarrassed. It's not on the onus of the residents of the city that they don't know about it and how it affects people. And so to Jennifer, to second your idea about just, using these events as opportunities for people to learn more and to be as a tool for empowerment to gain knowledge about what it is and how it affects their communities. But yeah.
I think I don't know how to feel about it. In some ways, we are very fortunate in some respects. We are connected to the Catskill Aqueduct. So some of our issue has temporarily been resolved. There are other communities where they have no other option. So I think that's part of the reason why Newburgh is sort of not as completely engulfed with PFAS, because we've got this alternate source, to be honest. I think some of our success in being able to get an alternate source of water supply has in some ways silenced the actual severity of the issue.
Well, and I think too, people are just really weary now. It was hard enough with the environmental exposures, but you pile on COVID and you pile on the justice issues, and that's something I've been trying to wrestle with, is how do we keep, if it's appropriate, I feel like we also need to have a positivity or something positive, and not be, I don't know how to describe it, but I'm feeling the need in both the communities that we've been out. I was out in Hoosick Falls last week, and it was the same kind of thing. It's just like people are tired, and it's just trying to be respectful of that and also have a positive message that this can be a helpful thing. Ed.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on Jennifer's point. This might be how we summon the forces at SUNY New Paltz. We have some great scholars on the call who want to be supportive. That piece where we provide and utilize students to help get messaging out or create infographics or videos. I think we need some concerted effort there. And so I know that folks are chomping at the bit to help wherever they can. And so maybe if there was some direction and guidance, as you were explaining it before. For example, Gerard said to me that he wants to do a video and he's ready to go this week, like that PSA.
Yeah.
So I would love to try to, facilitate that. If there are people that are willing and able and ready, let's figure out how we utilize them. Mm-hmm. Under your guidance, obviously, but I think, for example, I don't know if environmental advocates are on the line, but I know they work really well at sharing messaging or creating messaging, and they have already volunteered to both help with this effort and with the lab work that we have to do as far as getting messaging out. So I think maybe and it doesn't have to be tonight, but some huddling around that level of work, the PSAs, the infographics, the information, the one-pagers is important for us to focus on so that we utilize our resources as efficiently as possible.
Jennifer, have you done that kind of communication before in talking to people on how to be an advocate or how to empowerment or kind of the theme that you're thinking about?
Strategically, intentionally, no. I think, it kind of haphazardly, organically occurs one-on-one. It would be great to actually have a plan and I did attend some sessions through Poor People's Campaign, but that was in regards to other topics of area. But it does come back to, giving personal testimony and how to add, it was empowering and learning how to strategically use your story to advocate for whatever change is necessary. But within Newburgh Clean Water and stuff, no, we haven't had any like actual program or anything. It would be something great to do.
Or videos or all that, because I was thinking, after this call, we can certainly send everyone on the distribution list the fact sheets and our ideas around talking points and all that related to the study. But obviously, there's just one component of what we're talking about. So, and then to help start to coordinate and assemble information that we can then use to create a talking point list, but also handouts for people who want those and a plan. So I was just thinking through, yeah.
I am working on sort of like a toolkit for what you're talking, like, for legislative, change, different call to actions, things to know about. So we are working on something.
Okay.
So we can do that.
Okay. It's really helpful. Because I like that idea. So March 5th is in a week and a half. So that's the other thing. So I'm trying to figure out because whatever we do on March 5th, we want to do as well as we can, given that we have a week and a half. So I want to be somewhat realistic on what we can accomplish and get ready. Because I agree, I think sending information out for folks ahead of time would be helpful in how to strategically, focus on that. And then obviously plan future events where we moving forward, and we can talk about some of those tonight as well, just so we can have some dates in our mind and then plan out how that might look. So given that it's in a week and a half, I mean, what do you think? I think Kindly Black Vanilla Cafe, we can certainly begin and end there, however that might look. I think they're on board, but where should we start in terms of a location and how many people? The barbershops are great, but that I think might be a tour of barbershops. Is that what they were thinking this morning?
Yes, it would be a tour.
Yeah.
It would be some of those nibbles that we've been talking about, information share, and sort of call to action to other conversations in other spaces.
Would the barbershop tour work better after we have a chance to meet with a group of ambassadors and communicators who then talk, and then as we grow, we move out and do the barbershop tour in 1 or 2 weeks? Or rather, should we start with people and leaders in the community and at the apartment complexes and the Boys and Girls Club, or what are you thinking?
Well, definitely the housing complexes.
Right. Okay.
We're going to the housing complexes, but the strategy to go to the housing complexes, what we talked about this morning, was identifying ambassadors in those spaces. So
okay. And do you think we can do that? Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So March 5th should be the housing complexes. And then there are 2, right? Or there are at least 2 that were on the email communication. And then Black Vanilla Cafe. How long are we thinking at each place?
We didn't decide this this morning, but I think this is holding space for the community too. So
yeah,
I think a lot of the questions that you're asking will be, I think, better put to those people that are going to help us, the ambassadors in those different spaces.
That's fine. So, that's what I'm trying to get to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the next steps then, you think?
I think we've talked about these infographics one pagers. I don't know if they exist. We've talked about PSAs. We talked about social media. I don't know what exists, but I think if in my mind, that's the pressing issue.
Okay.
For me, because we've gotten invited and we can go to the homes, so that's not an issue. The barbershop thing, we can go. That's a space where we can go to. You have a draft sort of outline of what the agenda might look like. We have people that can come and be deployed. If say for example, we talk to folks and they say, yeah, that the thing that Jennifer mentioned, arts and craft for kids or some sort of science project to keep kids engaged while parents are engaged in conversation. If that is what we hear we have to do, then we have to do that.
Yeah.
But we have resources to put that in place. But what I don't know is, well, what's the one pager look like? Or what does the social media outreach look like?
Okay.
Or that's to me the missing space more so than the actual run of the show at a particular event, because that we've done and we can do.
What's the materials?
In my mind, I'd love to hear from other folks, but in my mind, that's a concern. Other than the concerns we mentioned already, which, why would people come out and hear this? Work and other commitments. But beyond that, the issue is, what are we saying and how are we saying? And what are we saying before? And what are we saying when we get there? And that's paperwork. And that's
right. Okay. So we need the toolkit, is what the bigger toolkit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. But I'm that's me talking. I'd like to hear from other folks.
Jennifer has her hand up.
Yeah, and also because the following Monday is the event at the library is still happening, correct?
No.
Well, we would think once we heard about March 5th, we thought we might need to postpone the March 7th, but what do you think?
Okay. No, I was just wondering because the other part of it is my question was to make sure that we're not constantly overlapping, like hitting the same people somehow without realizing it. Or...
Right. And so we've actually thought we'll push the library event out a little further. Once we heard that March 5th was kind of in the works, we thought it might be wise to wait on the library for a week or two or whatever we come up. Gloria's established a good relationship with the director of the library to schedule events. So I think that's what we were thinking. I mean, we're happy to, obviously we'll take your lead. But
I thought the library was good only because with that streaming aspect, like if that was a possibility, it would be able to reach out more. And then once we're in the public, it would then be that echo where then that was my only thing. But however it goes down is fine. But I'm excited to see the library one as well, just because they do public events well. And
Gloria, am I remembering that Mondays were good at the library?
I'm not sure if in general that specific one was, but I think so. Yeah.
I mean, we could easily just reschedule it for the week of, if the library is available, sometime the week of March 14th. We can pick a time to have a combination, again, have something March 5th and 2 weeks later have something with the library that has the streaming that incorporates, folks who might be available then. And we can see if there are any events on the library's calendar that would, if they're a family event or something else that's going on that we could piggyback on.
We're actually working on, well, I'm trying to work on something because the 22nd of March is International World Water Day.
Yep.
So I'm working with the youth coordinator to see if there's going to be something. And so they seemed like it's a possibility. I do know, I think that Monday is Day of Happiness with Safe Harbors at the Ritz. They usually do a thing. So you might end up, or is that a Sunday? I don't know. One of the days is International Happiness Day. So I know that week they're doing something.
Okay. Okay, so those are both possibilities with that. Okay, so it sounds like the main deliverable of tonight is we can certainly share with you what we have to date. We're still in the process of trying to get the social media toolkit together, but we can send you what we have in the fact sheets and get your feedback on what we had to take that information and put it into something that's more digestible for these types of events. And then that will be the framework for then what else we need to add to it that is beyond just, obviously the stuff we have is for the study itself, but we're talking about topics beyond that as well. I'm curious, Giselle, are there other spaces and places that you think we should be like up front here in the next couple of weeks, be really focused on thinking about?
So a lot of them were already mentioned. I know that you had already, the library is obviously like a big one in Ward 1, so that's important. You mentioned the Boys and Girls Club, which is also a very important location in Ward 1. I'm trying to think of another location aside from, churches, which were already mentioned. The barbershops were already mentioned. I know Jennifer mentioned the youth build. I'm trying to think. I mean, that pretty much covers a lot, like majority of the spaces where a lot of families, both children and adults would occupy. If I think of any other locations that I feel would be, important, I can send you an email.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Or events. If there are events going on or community events and things that either, that we could partner with or just be there and be a presence, that's also something that would.
Yeah, there is going to be actually, now that you mentioned it, but it's very short notice. Snug is going to have an event on Friday. It's their Black History Gala, and it's going to be, but it's not in Ward 1. It's going to be at the Armory Unity Center. It's from 5. It starts at 5. And I mean, if you're just looking to kind of hand out info in general, I think that would be, that is an event that's happening. I'm trying to see if I have anything else on the calendar. But we can always make announcements at the city council meeting. That's going to be on Monday, the 28th. And I always share the information with the Democratic Committee, and I ask the committee members to spread information. But other than that, I don't have another.
And we have posters too, that if people want, that we can, and we'll send you the PDF of that, but we're also happy to send posters of varying sizes to folks if they want to hang posters up.
Actually,
Okay.
I can ask the assembly member if he or the senator if they would like a poster, and we can post on depending on what they say at the office.
Okay, all right, that'd be great. And that, so we have things like that as well so we can make a list. We'll pull that together tomorrow and get that to everyone. And, we can assemble a toolkit for the 5th, but then obviously we'll keep adding to it as we get going. Ed, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just I thought that was great conversation, but also I know folks know other people in this work, and I'm thinking about, because Lori mentioned it this morning, about the Black and Latino health group. I'm not familiar, but maybe somebody on the line might be. Because I'm feeding off of, building off of Jennifer's point about building with places and spaces that are already doing this work. So I think it would be really interesting to hear about what other folks are doing. Jennifer mentioned she's doing a toolkit, but what is the Black and Latino Health Association doing? Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong, but they might be doing some work. And Aaron, I think this poster thing would also play well in other places. So at churches or in Boys and Girls Clubs, a distribution of these posters. However, again, I would like to be able to utilize some of, the artists that we have online to maybe think about what we do post to make sure that it's going to be really impactful and effective. Maybe there's going to be some QR codes that take people to a video that demystify the process that can be updated on a regular basis. I just want to just not do what we always do, just really sort of think intentionally and purposely about how we can really get messaging out to folks. So just think about the different media. Yes, we can go and meet physically, which we should do, but we also can, I heard robocalls, I heard videos, I heard working with other agencies and going to different spaces and feeding off of programs that are already, going on. Like it would be, even though, the STUG event is outside of the area, you can see how that might be a good space to go and share information and prepare for what's about to happen. I like that notion or idea.
Okay. Does anyone, and thank you, I think that makes a lot of sense, and we can share what we've designed so far and then, get people's feedback. We have also translated everything into Spanish and Haitian Creole. And so we can send you the different versions of that to see. And we have done a couple of videos on our website, but that of our staff. What we would love is to have some videos of our community members with feedback. And so we can show you some of that as well. Does anyone work with the Black and Latino Health Group or other organizations that we should be reaching out to?
Has anyone been in touch with Newburgh Ministries at all?
Not directly. I've met individual pastors at the Black Vanilla Cafe events, and then when you did Newburgh Clean Water had that event at Calvary, but I haven't reached out directly to the ministry.
We did invite. They were invited to meetings as well as the Newburgh LGBTQ Center, and some folks weren't able to attend.
Yeah.
But I think we can be more intentional, Jennifer, about involving any and everybody, especially like if we're doing this deep dive in Ward 1, anybody that does any engaging work in Ward 1, whether it's a not-for-profit or community center or faith-based institution, I think those posters and information shares need to go there as well.
Yeah, and there's also the isn't there the older housing apartments across from SUNY? Like there, I can't remember the name, but there are some housing complexes that are like alternative housing that might be helpful.
Would that be? It's different from what's under the purview of Housing Authority.
Yeah, I think they're privately owned.
They're privately owned.
Okay.
I'm talking about north of SUNY Orange on Grand. Isn't I don't know if it's under HUD or anything like that. I'll find out.
It might be under HUD, but I don't think it's under the Housing Authority for Newburgh. But so it doesn't matter. We can talk to them too. I think housing complex is a thing. I think that's really important. Yeah. If there's a congregation of people, I think it would be good to get this information there. So again, like this deep dive in Ward 1. And we had talked about that a little bit, not maybe today, but just doing sort of this sort of asset mapping of Ward 1, like all of the places and spaces, the not-for-profits, the schools, the churches, the community centers, the housing complex, et cetera. That might be a good exercise, maybe even for a student to just identify and to be able to distribute information once we know what we want to distribute to those spaces to ensure that it's posted and people are getting information.
Is that something, I know you're working with SUNY New Paltz students, do they want to help with that, or should we start the list, or?
Yeah, I think that that's really something that we can jump into. Like, so, Sarah, does that make sense? Like, so, like students that we were talking about that might be able to want to do this level of work, we can have them engage in some level of this information share and development of a asset map. Is Sarah Wyman still on the line?
Yeah. No, I think that's key for us. If SUNY New Paltz is going to be involved at all, it's got to come through the students. And we have some real interest, especially in our Black Student Union and the head of our student association, which is student governance. And we really are waiting to take the lead from them, but that part hasn't quite been activated yet. There's all sorts of faculty interest, but we can't designate our role. We're listening to the community, and then the students can take the lead, many of whom live in Newburgh.
Yeah, I just had a conversation tonight with two students that are ready to jump into this type of work. So yeah, I think we would love to, Erin, utilize students to do this level of work and to be engaged.
Okay. If they can help with that list, that would be, and as a launching pad, that'd be super. Jennifer has her hand up.
I just have a question, because if we're going to be really optimistic, and let's say this is really successful and you have a lot of people interested, because my understanding was you're sending out notices. If people haven't received a notice but want to do this testing, because my understanding was the target was 1,000.
It is 1,000, and we had a meeting today to clarify some of this. So first of all, we have a map with boundaries. So if someone's interested and said, hey, I'm interested, but I don't have an invitation yet, we're able to look them up if they're in that map. And we have a process to go ahead and enroll them. There is an eligibility screen that you do, and we can enroll them. If they're not on the map, they're outside the boundary. There is also a process to have them on we have a contact list, so they can be updated with newsletters, and also for us to follow up with them, so we can go back and look up information and confirm with them whether or not they would be eligible based on their address, because it has to be within the water district. And then we can follow up with them that way. But if they don't have an invitation yet, but they're interested, we absolutely want them. We have a map and we can confirm that. I was talking to DOH today. What we'd like to do is develop a process over time, if people are interested, where we come and have an event, whether it's at the library or at Black Vanilla Cafe, anywhere where there's a Wi-Fi connection. The same with the apartment complexes. We could do eligibility screens on the spot and schedule people for a visit then, so that they don't have to call in. So that process wouldn't necessarily be ready by March 5th, but again, we're planning on being in the community quite often. So if we hear that might be of interest to folks, we can definitely work out we can work out that process.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's 500 per site. It's 1,000.
Well, but it's 1,000 total. That's our goal. But I will say this, and I've said the same thing to Huzik. If we make our numbers and there are a lot more people interested, we're very willing to go back to CDC and say, look, because CDC understands the importance of having both Huzik and Newburgh in this multi-site study, so that we will have that fight. If I know people want to do it, then we will make sure we get the funds to do it.
Yeah.
So when you hit 500, it stops until you can get clearance for more?
No, well, we monitor every week. I will know when we're getting close to the 500, and it won't be. I do not have a plan to automatically stop at 500. That's never been part of. We made that promise early on. So the goal is 1,000. And to be honest, some of the other sites are really struggling to get to 1,000 across the country. So if we're there, and because I get the same question from Huzik, so if we get to 1,000 and the numbers are getting close, then I monitor. I meet weekly with CDC. I'll say, hey, this is our reality, and this is important to New York. It's important to the community. So we will make sure people can enroll. That we're working on. So We're not there yet. We have 30. We're at 30, which is great. We just started. We have 30 complete visits. That's wonderful. And we're really excited about that. So we watch every week. And if we're starting to look like we're getting a lot of interest and we're inching closer to the numbers, then we'll make sure that we have capacity to do it.
Okay, because I'm thinking optimism once this, the snow is gone, but it's coming back. Things, and the discussion keeps hitting the sidewalk. We managed the 3,000 whatever last time.
Yeah.
And that was with a very, that was out of fear and it was immediate, but I do have hope that this would be received well.
I hope so too. And again, we were going to work with community as we do the study analyses, as we find out what the data are telling us, and again, continue to work with the community and communicate, and ideally have the community help us identify what data to look at first and what hypotheses to examine first. I mean, that would be the best case scenario. And then work with the community and the providers is the other promise. Yeah, we were talking about that today, and we're all on the same page. If it goes very well and there's a line and it's clear that people want to participate, we will find the way. So,
and just Jennifer, and for everyone, like, please, people can call. Please call in. My staff would love to answer the phone if they want to call and see if their house was selected even before receiving the invite. They can do that. Even just to call to ask questions, like, please call in. And to me, that's like to go back to Giselle's point, and this was also brought up earlier about trust in the science and research. Like, I know it's important to Dr. Bell that we're as transparent as possible, so our staff is definitely happy to answer any questions about the study. And please, if you're in the community and talking to people, like, even if they just have questions, like, call and we're happy to talk to them.
And I think that goes back to the talking points so that we can make sure that they understand, quickly.
Okay.
I just want to mention Gerard's on the call. If Mr. Lawson can't see that he's on. Did you want to say anything, Gerard?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Great.
I'm good. I kind of spoke a lot earlier today, and like I said before from earlier today, that I'm on the ground every day. I live in Ward 1. I've been here for 45 years, and I think all the ideas that we talked about are all great ideas. But I also know that, social media is a serious area where you can get a lot of information out, and people will be more in tune if we can. I think Ed said it a little earlier. I would like to shoot a commercial, a PSA announcement, and let the community see familiar faces speaking about the issue.
Yeah.
And PSA announcements are powerful. They play at gas pumps, so it's like getting that information out. I think that's critical, and that'll help out on the back end for the people that don't show up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be great. And thank you. And I think I saw in the chat here, we have some folks at New Paltz who could help with that shooting of a commercial. And we're in the process of putting together a social media toolkit that community members can use. So for those who have social media that through the various organizations that we would love feedback on, and we can tweak it in whatever way works best for you, or I think you would be helpful. And then people can use that as a platform and use that toolkit. So I think that's a superb idea. Thank you for that. It's so important. What we have been talking about was actually tomorrow sending to everyone kind of what we have on hand in terms of fact sheets and different social media and posters and all that to show you and to give us some guidance on what needs to be tweaking. And then in addition, Jennifer and others would like to create some talking points for issues beyond just the study. So we have the study, but then we have other issues related to water and environmental justice and advocacy, and then use that to then build out the toolkit that could then, be put to use March 5th with the idea of reaching out to ambassadors that can come to events on the March 5th in the 2 housing complexes and to Black Vanilla Cafe, and to, if we identify other areas for March 5th. And then we'll continue to have events frequently in the community, starting in Ward 1 and then moving our way around each of the wards over the next many months. And there's strong interest in an event at the library as well that would perhaps, I'm wondering if that event, because I know when I presented to Newburgh Clean Water, Jennifer, there was some interest in there were people who wanted to join an event but were reluctant to do so in person. And so maybe that might be a way to maybe do a collaborative something with Newburgh Clean Water. And but it's just something we can explore. What have we missed? Any other organizations that we should reach out to? Any other ideas?
Is Cornerstone part of this at all, or Planned Parenthood?
So we have assembled a list of all of the different providers. Cornerstone and Planned Parenthood are on that list. We're actually getting information ready to send out to all of the providers on that list. We had our community advisory panel review the list. We'll probably send it out one more time just to make sure we're complete. We have not formally scheduled anything with Planned Parenthood or Cornerstone, although that's definitely on our radar. We weren't quite sure how best to do that, and we're looking for feedback from the community. But that again, and were you thinking they might want to partner on a event or host information, or more for bringing the providers into the fold?
I mean, it could be both. I remember a while ago, I think it was through the WIC department, they used to host healthy eating sessions. So they're used to having families come to do sort of organized, programming. The provider aspect is absolutely, I think, a good, necessary spoke in the wheel. But they are, and I think they also have like a mobile van. So, as do some of the insurance carriers like Fidelis and I think MVP used to, but yeah.
Okay. How would this group, and Giselle, I think is still on too, especially since as ward leader, moving forward, what is the best way to communicate with all of you, but also to meet to kind of plan out what the event should be as we move forward? How would people like to do that? Do you want to have scheduled, should we talk about how meetings, and have a planned meetings, or do you just want us to reach out, or what is the best mechanism?
I definitely think that it's not just going to be one thing. Like, I think each type of outreach that we're doing is going to be different. So it can be a mixture of, of an info session at the library and, a mixture of splitting up into teams and going out into the ward and, just talking to people or joining an event. I think that if it's going to be an event that's going to be hosted by, by this group, it should probably be in an area where, again, will be central to Ward 1 and will provide the necessary space to accommodate families who might have small children. I know that was mentioned earlier. I don't want to repeat it, but I think that if people have questions and they're coming to these events, it's because, you know, they're interested. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I think that most of the outreach that we're going to have to do, we're going to have to go to people.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, 1 or 2 events that we put on and we have people come to us might have really great turnout. But I don't think we should stop at that. I think that we should be the ones going to people, and that, you know, in my opinion, I think that I would like to focus a little bit more on that.
Okay.
You know, just
I think
getting,
you're right. Putting on the sneakers and just going and walking. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay. I
Is that
think
what
I
you say,
agree.
when you say that, you mean like going door to door within the community?
Yeah, door to door, but also, you know, I believe in collaboration with a lot of the small businesses. Like, for example, on South Street, we have multiple businesses. There's the pizza shop, then there's also like this smoke shop right next to it. There's a cornerstone, like a little deli, grocery store right in front of it. And that area is heavily populated. I did a last minute event at the pizza spot on South. The owner was very kind. He let us set up inside. We were doing a community outreach for the police survey, and we even distributed COVID test kits, and people were coming in and out. You know, they were like, oh, what are you doing in here? So I think that it's just going where it's more heavily populated, and there's even like a little laundromat right around the corner. And then like if you keep going straight on like parallel to Liberty, there's a bunch of other like little delis and stores there. Again, just, yeah, very central.
So again, once we have this toolkit ready to go, which we should get together pretty quickly, then, you know, we can have a couple of these larger events, but then also just coordinating with you and others who are interested on some walking tours and going to people and going to, and have some days and evenings when we can do that.
Yeah.
Sound right? Okay.
I think that's a street team type of approach, and I totally agree. It should be multimedia. It should be different layers, and it should be granular. And I think that will also build trust and legitimacy as well, because people will feel like you're not just there to get something out of them. You're there because you care about the community, the health, wellness. I think it would be brilliant to see not just community members, but also students. So this is where students from New Paltz could maybe partner with students from NFA or middle schools in their communities to actually have these conversations. And so I can even see it get into like block association. Councilman Martinez, aren't there like block associations within Ward 1 too, like community associations within the ward?
So we haven't established it yet, but that is something that we want to get, you know, up and running. The whole conversation around block captains has been very, like a lot of members of the community have been very vocal about wanting to establish that. So, I mean, if this is something that you want to kind of help get that up and running, we can definitely do that. I know several community members that are always just so eager to jump on board and, you know, participate and help in any way they can. So if that's something that you'd like to establish too, we can. I know Yvonne Derricks on Du Bois. She's someone that's like very vocal, very like always like up and, you know, willing to like help out. You know, there's probably a lot of people on South that, you know, we know and can get a part of that. I know a few people on Johnston and Chambers and Landers. So happy to like do street by street, or if you want to do by block, whatever it may be.
So when we were talking earlier about these credible messages and real models, that's exactly what we were talking about. Like those folks. So yeah, let's identify them and let's, you know, they can be co-conspirators as well. But again, remember, this is not just about PFAS. This is about health, wellness, environmental, and social justice. And I think that will resonate with folks like you're talking about. Those folks because they're not going to be fly by night. They want to make sure that there's an overall community uplift. And so, yeah, let's do that, Dr. Bell. I think that's a really, and what's great about this, we're starting in Ward 1, and the block captain or the block associations are something that we can establish and let this be the wave of that.
Yeah.
Right? Let's utilize this opportunity. You know what they say, every crisis is an opportunity. And this is an opportunity for us to really engage the community in a meaningful way. And I think the fact that Councilman Martinez is with us, along with, I think it's really great to see when we think about the various, or the myriad of folks coming around this issue, collaborating. I think that will also build trust and legitimacy within the community. So yeah, I'm all for that. And I've seen how powerful block associations, and those people are, like you said, you're very vocal, and I know what you mean by that, very vocal. They get stuff done though. And with armed with the information that we might be able to share with them, and them sharing information with us from a bottom-up perspective, helps us to do this work better. And I'm excited about that. What you just said, I'm super excited about. I'm extremely excited about that. I'm not allowed to say super excited anymore.
And Jennifer pointed out the Fogarty apartments too in that discussion. So
Yes.
no, I think that's right. So it's still, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this first step is still get the information together for a toolkit. And then our New Paltz collaborators will work on a list. But for the block associations, are you thinking, how does that?
I think if Councilwoman Martinez can share or convene conversation of those credible or real role models, that we can talk to them as well about how we deploy this because again, we don't want to be talking down to them. We want to hear how we can be co-conspirators, right?
Right.
And I think they will appreciate the collaboration, right? What do you think, Councilwoman?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that just pulling people in for communication is the first step. I know that we've been doing a lot of that. We've been meeting with a lot of people. But, I think it would be really great to kind of set a foundation for those connections because, not that there's anything wrong. Like I support having, a collaboration between New Paltz students and like Mr. Lawson said, having, NFA kids come in, and helping us out, knock on doors and stuff. But I also think that, I think back and it's like, we need to have members of the community that can also vouch and be like, oh, this is okay. Like, don't worry. They're not like random strangers that are gonna,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this needs to be coming from the community and for the community and with the community. And that's exactly why we wanted to work with you and everyone that's here, because this really needs to be community driven. In any way we can facilitate that. That's what we.
Jennifer's hand is up.
Yeah.
So with all of that, are there learning sessions for those that are that we're asking to kind of be the liaison into the communities that we might not be part of 100%? Aside from having the toolkit where, there's talking points, is there any learning session or something so that it's not set up for hiccups of not being fully understanding the whole process or whatever?
Yeah, no, I think we can definitely arrange that. And I think that's, started the conversation tonight as we assemble this. I think one of the other steps is having a learning session to talk about all of these different issues and answer questions. And for folks who want to be those ambassadors and be the co-conspirators, how do we provide the information they need? And many in the community are already very highly informed. In my experience working with folks, even on the study with regards to PFAS. So it's, but for those who want to learn more about specific talking points and other things, certainly we can arrange that. But it's always fun. I love it when I have community members frequently reach out from both communities that tell me, have you seen that paper? That paper's out, or you do this. So it's great. But that's exactly, a lot of the members of the community already know, and then we can have learning sessions for talking points so there's consistency. And all of that. Okay. I know it's getting late and people have had long days. So just to make sure I'm clear, we'll assemble information to send to all of you to review and provide feedback on and ideas, and we can help create this toolkit. We're planning on a March 5th event that we can provide information for, and we'll work with Congressperson, I elevated you, Councilperson Martinez and Mr. Lawson and others in terms of what the 5th will look like. And as we get communicating, we'll start talking about other events, but also the variety of events. So we'll have multi-layered and all of that. One last thing, just to follow up on the commercial and the PSA announcement. I think, did I see Sarah and others from New Paltz that that's something that New Paltz can help with?
If that seems appropriate, I could reach out to Rob Harris, who's a professor who did a lot of documentation of a community event we had lately. Yeah, does that sound good?
Is that a good with Gerard and Ed Lawson?
I know Gerard, we're right down the road. So yes, I think Sarah, we can huddle about what that looks like and make something happen. We have a TV studio here on campus that we can do certain things. We might be able to interview some folks, even community folks. We talked about, even inviting folks from Newburgh up to campus to maybe summit around environmental justice. And so all those things are options. I love Jennifer's point about sort of learning, but the learning that we want to do is also learning from community, because there's richness in this community and real talent and genius and greatness. And so it's not just about these, no offense to Dr. Erin Bell, who's a tremendous scholar, that, this scholarship is really within this community. And I think that you're going to see some brilliance happening. And that's what I really am in this for. I really want to make sure that this is a collaborative effort, truly collaborative effort, where people in the community have a real seat at the table to be complicit in their lives and how it turns out, specifically around health and wellness.
Now, and that's, I'm all for that. And this needs to come from the community. And I have learned a great deal from all of you already, and that will continue to happen. And so this at the end of the day, this is about Newburgh. This is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Any way that process, I'm very happy to sit back and listen and learn. So all that. So okay. Anything else in closing? Well, thank you all so much. I know it's such a busy time, and I just thank you for all your help and commitment. Mr. Lawson and I meet regularly, so we'll also meet tomorrow. We can debrief a little bit more, but we'll definitely work on getting information and ideas out that and feel free to, in no way, it's just to get the kind of your thoughts rolling on what might be useful. And what might not, and it just to again, your feedback, your thoughts on what you need, and we'll help facilitate creating whatever we need for that toolkit. And we'll continue to discuss March 5th. I think probably we should maybe plan on a meeting next week sometime to talk about Saturday the 5th as a group, but we'll put that in the email communication tomorrow, and I can follow up. So we'll continue to move. On the first, March 1st, which is Tuesday night, Judith Ank is actually presenting to, and I can forward the Zoom tomorrow to our students on how to be an advocate. And so for those who might be interested, or if you're working with students who might be interested, it's all on Zoom and you can register. And I was asked to interview her as so we're going over how to, for students. So for those who work with younger people who might be interested, you're welcome to share that widely. And we'll send that tomorrow too. So, all right. Well, thank you all so much. I hope you have a good night, and we'll talk soon.